and welcome to another episode of Acceptable Madness. My name is Scott McKinney, and I'm actually recording this on April 21st. So if you celebrate Easter, happy Easter, and if you don't, happy Sunday. Today, I'm going to be talking about inspiration, and I'll get into that soon. But before I even start that, I wanted to say, after 22 episodes of this, so actually, because the first few weeks were bi-weekly, I've been doing this for over half a year, which is kind of a big deal. But what I learned is how to have an audio or a volume that isn't aggressively louder than the other stuff you'll listen to. So hopefully I have that fixed now. If not, sue me. I'll figure it out soon enough. But it's all a learning experience. So everything I do from here on out will hopefully be a little bit better. And hopefully that's the case for each episode. Other things that I want to address before I go into the bulk of the episode. Hopefully, I don't want to make any promises, but I reached out to some people in terms of being guests on my podcast, and I've gotten a few responses, and hopefully they will play out soon in a way that, we'll have some different viewpoints on here, people that are potentially prolific in the mental health community, and I think it would be really cool to get some different perspectives on here and just kind of have a candid conversation about how they got to their position, what kind of stuff they do for themselves to feel better. There's a lot of stuff and a lot of questions that could be asked, and I'll be putting those together over the next week to try to make sure that I have a good, professional list, because I really don't have that much practice interviewing other people. I've gotten interviewed myself, so I know how they work, kind of, but I've never done it myself, so that's going to be a learning experience for me too, which I'm excited for. The last thing that I will say before I start this is it was brought to my attention by Alex that last episode I mentioned some guy complimenting my glasses and how I responded oddly to that. But I also talked about that in the episode before. So pardon my terrible memory. I'm almost positive that that's not the last time that is going to happen, because that's just how my brain works. As I'm talking through the podcast and, talking about a specific topic, I'll bring up whatever I can think of that is relevant, and it's really hard to reflect upon the last X amount of episodes that I've had, and that'll be true from here on out. So if I ever repeat myself, sorry. I don't want to give you too much repeat information, but at the same time, for people that start listening to the podcast on episode 23 and don't really feel the need to go back and listen to the first 22 episodes, they'll still be hearing new stories. So sorry if that happens. Hopefully it's not a super common occurrence, but if it does happen, then it'll work itself out. Sorry. But with all that being said, I know that was kind of a long intro, but it's all stuff that I wanted to say. So I'm going to jump into the bulk of this, which is inspiration. Now, inspiration for me is a very interesting topic, because I think inspiration can be done for a lot of different reasons. And, for example, there's inspirational speakers. There are people that have gotten to a specific or a prolific kind of position in a specific area or field or profession. And then those people who have reached that point will use their wisdom and knowledge that they've gained to get there as a way to kind of inspire younger people or people that are maybe not as experienced in the industry that they're in, or for whatever other reason they possibly could be. And the thing about inspiration is I rarely see it working, because it always seems to something impactful and inspirational will happen. You'll see a movie that really affects you. You'll read a book, or you'll hear a song that just impacts you in such a way that you're just like, I need to go out and do something. Or if it's like a song that really impresses you, I want to go out and make something that can impact someone the way that that song impacted me. For me, I listen to a wide range of music, and a lot of the time, the stuff that really kind of impacts me is classical or also rap. I know that those are pretty far opposite ends of the spectrum, but like, I could be listening to something by Bach or Mozart, I don't know, or like just some piece done by like the London Philharmonic, and the way that it sounds is something that's like, I want to work harder, this is inspirational, because it's just so magnificent or beautiful or something that it makes me want to better myself or accomplish something or just do something other than sit on my ass. So that's something that that personally inspires me. It's never someone telling me like, go out and be your best self or go out and be amazing. It's always someone having done something impressive by their own accord, and then me understanding that they've done something to their own accord, and that it's been able to reach that kind of level of beauty or skill that being in its presence makes you want to do more. Like, for me, I'll just take a piece that everybody's familiar with classically, like the Ode to Joy. That's a piece that everybody knows. Everybody's heard it at least some point, even if you don't necessarily know what it is offhand. I'm sure you've heard it at some point. It's just, or like the Rise of the Valkyrie or something like that. It's these are all songs. Again, classical. So sorry if that's not like your go-to music, where I'm sure it's not. Where you'll hear it and you'll just kind of, the amount of skill that it takes to do something like that is astronomical. And that's not the case. That's not just the case for like classical. One of my favorite rappers is J. Cole, even though I think his newest album is complete and total dog shit. His old album, For Whom the Bell Tolls, For Your Eyes Only is the title of the album. For Whom the Bell Tolls is the song on the album. But some of the songs on there are just magnificent. Like they're really, really good. They're well put together, and they express emotion and feelings that I personally have never experienced, and that gives me a better understanding for the world. And what that does for me is that makes me appreciate J. Cole better, appreciate where he came from, the background that he has, and the background that a lot of other people have that I do not understand. And that's the kind of thing that'll help to break down barriers. Now, that it takes an open-mindedness to see it that way as opposed to just music. But it's something that, if you're open to it, if it's something that you're really willing to experience, it really can change your appreciation for the world, your understanding of it. And again, because it's something that like a few people came together and made something that's just amazing, that in itself is inspiring, because it should show you that anybody can do anything. I'm just some guy that decided to start a podcast sometime. I'm just some guy that decided that, you know what, I like telling stories, maybe I could write a book. That's the same case with like Stephen King, who's one of the most known writers of today, along with like James Patterson, who does crime novels, along with the who's the guy, like the guy that does Law and Order, to stay on the crime kind of, some Dick Wolf, I think. But like, these are just people, and granted, they're people that have done massive undertakings. Like Stephen King's written a lot of books. James Patterson has probably written over like 1,000 books. That's an exaggeration, but he's written a lot. And Dick Wolf, if that is the name of the guy that does Law and Order, he has so many episodes that have been created and just kind of have budded off of one initial idea and TV show that was created and kind of garnered a cult following. And to me, that's super impressive, and that's the kind of thing that makes me personally feel like I can go out and do something. Now, it's really easy to see these people as extraordinary human beings. I think they are. I think they are those people that you need to look at with this kind of healthy respect, to understand that they got there. They are normal people, but they really, really dedicated themselves to something to get to that point. And I think that's the part of inspiration that people sometimes, myself included, have a hard time understanding. I would love to be like the world's best musician. I would love to be the world's best rapper. I mean, it's never gonna happen, and it's just because the passion's not there. I'm not interested enough in the art of rapping, or like rap as a genre, to become the world's best rapper or even strive for it. So I won't sit down and put in the hours and hours and hours that it takes to do that, and to do that craft and learn it, because it does take so long to learn. And that's something that took me some time to understand. Let's take art, drawing, painting, all that stuff. I used to believe for the longest time that I just had this built-in inability to create anything with my hands, to draw, to paint, use crayons. I can't stay inside the lines. I still can't. I'm too impatient for it. And I don't really like it, so I don't try to stay in the lines. I don't find it like soothing or anything. But, these people that have made famous paintings and famous works of art, like Michelangelo doing the Sistine Chapel, or any of the sculptures that he did, or Da Vinci doing all of the different paintings, or Andy Warhol, or all of them. They didn't just make one painting. These are people that have found out and discovered their appreciation and love for art, and then dedicated their entire lives to it. And then only then did they hit this point of skill and mastery and understanding of the craft and the work that they're trying to do. And the reason that I say all of that is because I think that's where a lot of inspirational speakers and a lot of inspiration, like people that are really, like, they're going out of their way to inspire people, I think that's where a lot of them fall flat. Because a lot of the time I've seen inspirational speakers, and I don't think inspirational speakers are bad. I don't. But I don't listen to inspirational speakers with the most open mind. And the reason for that is people that are inspirational speakers, like that is their profession, they don't really want to inspire people. Because if they inspire people, then they're out of a job. If everybody in the world gets inspired and they find their passion and they hunt it down and just go after it, chase it down like a motherfucker, then inspirational speakers are out of work, because they need to keep finding people that need inspiration. They need to find people that are out there that, oh, let's go to this talk, let's understand what this person is saying and doing, and understand how they got to this point where they are an inspirational speaker, and let's let them inspire us. Now, I don't understand the profession of inspirational speaking. I don't know how people get there. I don't know if it comes with, like, maybe you have to get to a certain status in a career, and then at that point you're allowed to call yourself someone that can inspire or something like that, or I don't know how that stuff works. I don't really care to. It doesn't matter to my point. But what my point is, I've never gone to an inspirational speaker and really walked out of there with impactful knowledge that has caused me to go out and do something different. Like, maybe if I watch a documentary on recycling, I'll try to recycle a bit better, even though I think I already do an okay job. Also, I'm pretty devastated by the fact that nobody knows how to recycle anymore, because they don't know where to put the recycled goods, so now it's just going to end up in the landfill again. It's a tangent. I really hope they can figure that out soon. Um, I don't know. Throwing stuff away that you used to recycle is it hurts. It hurts my very core because I really want to, like, it's something that I know someone somewhere can do something with it and be productive with it, but now they're just unable to based on budgetary constraints. Tangent, I know, but whatever. But I've never gone to a speaker and walked out and actually done something different. I've had moments where um, I've seen in movies or something that have caused me to walk out feeling like, wow, that was amazing. I want to be a better person. Blah blah blah. Such as one particular example that I remember was I watched the movie The Giver. Although I've been reading a lot more recently, that's actually a book I have not read, so I've only seen the movie. And I left that movie feeling like a new man. I walked out, it finished up. I walked out. It was like I think it was a winter day whenever I watched it, so it was like brisk, and I felt like I needed to go walk around by myself at like 10 or 11 at night in the middle of winter. And I ended up cleaning off a bench that had a foot of snow on it, just pushing it all off and just sitting there for like half an hour, just thinking and contemplating and pondering my thoughts. And that was it. And not to say that that wasn't a beneficial moment for me. Like, it was good to have that kind of retrospective thought. And just, having moments to yourself are perfectly fine. They're really healthy, at least for me. They really benefit me keeping my thoughts together and just having a time away from all the noise that comes from everyday life. And but the next day when I woke up, I went into the same routine that I had before. I was no more inspired than I was before I saw the movie, and nothing changed. And I mean, it's kind of weird because the feeling, that inspired feeling, is so satisfying for like a minute, and then it just dies. And I think the reason for that is, one, being inspired doesn't help you find what you're passionate about. I can watch The Giver. Hell, I could watch, I don't know, Good Will Hunting, a movie that's focused on education or something. And, say I eventually want to become a college professor. I don't know. I could watch that movie and it still might not necessarily get me to where I want to be. Because first off, when you're watching a movie that's not like a direct documentary, it's always actors. So ultimately you're watching actors, and I think everybody deep down knows that, even if the acting is super convincing. So the impact of the movie is always, at least to some point, unless you can really, really commit to those characters and believe in them. Like, I could do that for Walter White in Breaking Bad. Like, Bryan Cranston killed it. And it's so, I don't know, what I'm saying is, it's hard to like look at a movie and feel that inspiration, but have it directly give you, insight into what you want to do with your life, or your passions, or what you're working on, and how it can eventually give you some sort of gratification that you're not feeling right now. What it does is it makes you feel like you can be a better person, and then it stops, because then you don't have this thing leaning into you saying you can be a better person. Now, I don't think everybody needs to be a better person. I think a lot of people are great just the way that they are, and I think as long as they're happy, that's ultimately all that matters. But what I think is weird about the entire thought process of inspiration is, if people really want to do something that's different, say that your goal is you want to get a 9 to 5, and you get inspired to do that through watching a movie, and then you go out and get a 9 to 5. Good for you. There's no shame in that. I'm happy for you. I'm glad that you found what you like. I hope it's a job that you like. But let's say you really want to be a musician, like a paid musician, and you don't want to have that 9 to 5. You want to have the hustle and the bustle of being a musician, traveling from place to place, performing for large groups of people night after night, say that's what you want to do. If you watch the movie The Giver and you're slightly inspired, and then you're just like, you know what, I want to be a great musician and I want to be the best there ever was. Then the next morning you wake up, and instead of like pulling out a guitar or learning or trying to write a new song or like studying music theory or something, you just sit there and like eat Cheetos and watch cartoons, then you're no closer to the goal that you really have. And so inspirational speakers, things that inspire you, they make you feel great for a time being, but they really don't always push you to really do what you want to do. If it is what you want to do. Like, some people have this really hard time getting over that barrier of procrastination or like laziness or stalling or all that stuff, or the fear of rejection. Like, if you're going to try to do something like be a musician or be a writer or create a podcast that you want to be successful, you have to overcome a lot of barriers for it. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. It's not the point. Because the way that I've done it has not been through going to an inspirational speaker and walking out feeling completely motivated and a different, more enlightened person. The way that I've done it is I've gone to these inspirational speeches and realized that a lot of them are not for me. Some of them, I think, some of the people that speak, I think are superficial, super fucking fake, and not worth my time. And what I really realized was, if I want to be and accomplish anything, I need to put in all the time that I possibly can spare for it. And I need to get better. And I need to accept the fact that I'm not the best at it right now. Stephen King, as a writer, started from nothing. He didn't have this amazing god of a teacher. He's just a guy that liked writing and telling horror stories. He was inspired by some H.P. Lovecraft, and then it kind of took him from there. I don't know enough about his biography to say that he didn't have amazing writers, but I'm sure I know that at one point, but whenever I think his first thing got like published or something, he was like working at a laundromat. So he really didn't come from like rich beginnings. He was just a guy that really liked telling stories. And the way that he got there was through years and years of reading and writing and figuring it out. Getting better at it. I'm watching the TV show Brooklyn Nine-Nine right now, which I highly recommend. I think it's hilarious. But Andy Samberg is the lead actor of that show. Other people in it, like Terry Crews, who is one of my favorite actors because I just think he's hilarious. Every single one of those people had to put in a lot of work to get to where they're at. And they didn't just become these amazing actors right away. They've all faced tremendous rejection. Even if you don't know them personally, there's a 100% chance that all of them have been rejected hundreds and hundreds of times beforehand and just kept trucking along. I knew Andy Samberg before Brooklyn Nine-Nine from the music that he put out with The Lonely Island. And that's him putting in that time. Maybe the music isn't the best thing in the world, like I'm on a Boat or Captain Jack Sparrow or whatever the songs are. They're all funny in their own right. I enjoy them a lot. But each one that they made it helped that the band and the group kind of work on their comedy, work on music at the same time. They were able to find out how to tell a convincing joke through the course of a song, how to tell one, period, what things people actually laugh at and what they like based on how many people listen to their songs. They were able to find out so much just from putting out this music. And to put out the music, it had to come from the decision inside them that was, I think I can do something special enough that someone else might enjoy. Or, better yet, I think I can do something that I'll enjoy making. And that's where the inspiration comes from. Like, people think that it has this trickle down effect, I feel, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of people, let's go to these inspirational speakers, let's go to these masters of their craft, like go into these I'm in marketing, so go to these marketing conventions and talk to these people that are doing what I want to do. And I don't see the benefit of that all the time. I think that if you can find a really good mentor, that's great, because then they can walk you through every step of how they got there and really kind of take time to pay attention to all of the small, tiny, important details that are involved, as opposed to just, yeah, once you get here, it's amazing, and shit like that. I think it's really important to work on the ground levels and the bare basics. And that's where I think inspirational stuff falls short. I think it's way easier to listen to a song by someone impressive, like listening to Thriller by Michael Jackson. I love that song. I just really like it. And listening to that song and know that he literally started from the age of something young, something when he was in the Jackson 5, but they were kids and they were singing. And it took him practicing from being a kid all the way up to the time that he ended up dying, just focusing on the craft of music. And it's really hard to dedicate a life to something like that. Hell, I'm almost 23 and I haven't been doing this podcast for an entire year yet. And that feels like a really long time. In the grand scheme of things, it's nothing. I've been doing writing more committedly for 2 years now. And I'm only now at a point where I'm really, really, really proud of the stuff that I'm writing, but I still know that there's a huge room for improvement, and that's never going to end until the day I die. But that comes from the willingness to just kind of understand the challenge that actually goes into it. Prodigies, yeah, they might exist, but unfortunately, the vast majority of us, myself included, are not prodigies at anything. I'm kind of happy for it. I don't think I'd want to be a prodigy, because I feel like that training, that rejection, that drive that you get from starting from a place where you are not good at something, but you really like it, and trying to rise to a place that you're better, and maybe, if you're lucky, a point where you could even have financial independence because of it, is the coolest thing to me. I don't think I would like to be a prodigy. Sometimes the stress of trying to push for something that's so uncertain is really hard. Like, it's really hard to work on something for like 2 years, like every day, just reading or writing. Like, for me, I do that stuff every day trying to get better. And for 2 years, that's a long time. It's hard to have that dedication every day. And I don't do it every day. I'm not perfect by any means. So I have my off days, and I have days where I do a lot more. But what's important is finding what's going to cause that drive. Okay, deep down, I hope that I can become a famous author. I hope I can become a household name. But I think everybody that writes has that hope. But it's not why I write. The reason that I write is because I'm passionate about it, I love it, and I'm excited to tell a story. If no one reads it, well, it'd suck if no one read it. But Alex and my friend Kyle and other people along the way those are the two that have kept up with like every little short and piece of fiction and book that I've written. And it's cool to have them read it. But if the goal was, I want everybody in America to read it, or everybody in the world to read it, and I want to hit that status that J.K. Rowling, Stephen King, and James Patterson have, first off, I don't want to say that that's like delusional, because it's not an unreachable goal. But they hit it, and I'm sure none of them, George R.R. Martin is another, and I mention him because I'm recording this while I'm sure a lot of people are watching Game of Thrones, because that just came out, but I don't think any of them expected to hit this, the peak of the profession that they were trying to get into. Because one, I mean, if you go into it and you expect to be like the best writer in the world, that's naturally arrogant. I mean, and arrogance is a limiting factor sometimes, because if you are arrogant or you think you can get to that point, at least for me personally, whenever I've been feeling more arrogant, I feel as though I don't try as hard, because I need to understand that yes, I can make something good and something worthwhile and something worth making. But I need to understand that there is such a room for growth that's why I'm doing it. It's because I can really get better at it. And so the satisfaction that I get after finding my hobby, finding my passion, and working on it nonstop for 2 years versus the satisfaction that I get from one inspirational speech, like for like a 1 hour speech one night, the difference is out of this world. But it's so much easier to get that benefit of an inspirational speech with a speaker you've never met and you'll never talk to personally. It's so much more satisfying to put in that 2 years. And for me, until the day I die, no matter what level of success I hit with it, it's so much more satisfying to just push that hobby and that passion as far as it'll let you go. Because I can look back and say, yeah, I've written 3 books and I'm trying to do a podcast. And I don't know if I'm ever going to get published, and I don't know if this podcast is ever going to hit the mainstream, and I'm kind of okay with that. Because if it does find a good amount of people, then I'm thrilled. But if it doesn't, I'm still becoming a better writer, and I'm still doing something that I love. And that to me is inspirational. That's why when I listen to people that create amazing masterpieces of music, or just look at, amazing pieces of art, which that might not be the best example for me because I don't necessarily love museums and stuff, but I have a really good respect for just like people that draw, period, and just draw stuff that they're passionate about. But every time you see that little piece of work, that thing that you love, that TV show, people love Rick and Morty, people love Breaking Bad or Mad Men, everything that you see was just made by some person, some man or woman of whatever ethnicity, belief system, whatever it may be. It's just them deciding that they really want to try to make something and then just committing to it and dedicating all of their power on it or to it and seeing if it can take them somewhere. And through that persistence is where the pride comes from. And then they create something that you love. I really like Breaking Bad. I would love to create something that makes people feel how Breaking Bad makes me feel. And maybe that's arrogant because Breaking Bad and Gilligan, the creator of the show, and Bryan Cranston, because they're all so phenomenal at what they do. Maybe it's arrogant, but if I don't believe that I can get there at some level, that's discouraging myself. You need to have a level of faith in yourself also, because otherwise you're going to talk yourself out of it. If I go and look at the Mona Lisa, which is one of, that's the piece of art that everybody on the planet knows, basically. If I go look at that and say, oh man, I'll never get there, then you're probably right. And I know that a lot of people have, there's like sayings out there that's like, if you say you can't do it, then you're right. And they're all cheesy and they all sound like garbage and no one should ever in their right mind say it. But it's kind of true, because if you're going to defeat yourself at the starting line, then there's no reason for you to really have started it in the first place. There's no reason to keep going, because if you don't think you can do it, what's the point? And that's why faith in yourself is such an important factor, along with finding what you love and what you're passionate about. Anybody can make something that they love, if that's what they want to do. Not everybody wants to make something that they love. I mean, some people, for example, one of my sisters, and she stated this, she really doesn't have that many hobbies, but she's a happy person, and she enjoys indulging in other people's hobbies, and which is great, because that's the reason that people are allowed to create stuff like TV shows or books or movies, and it's because people are willing to indulge and be the viewer or the consumer as opposed to the creator. So everybody's important in the chain to let everything happen. If you get the guy, again, I love reading, I love watching shows that I can really think about, or I get some sort of gratification from, whether it be comedy like Brooklyn Nine-Nine or something dramatic and thoughtful like Breaking Bad. I love that, but I have this thought that I want to make something, and not everybody does. Now, why do I think that this is an appropriate topic for a podcast that generally focuses on mental health? Well, one, it's my podcast. I can do what I want. And I thought that this was an episode worth having. But two, if you're really passionate about something and, you're in that mode where you're having a really hard time getting out of bed, or you're having a hard time focusing, or you can't bring yourself to do it because the thought of rejection is so impossible, I promise you that everybody else has those same doubts and thoughts, but it's the ones that persevere and really are persistent with it that can keep going through. And that can be all the difference. Like, I like marketing. I'm excited to work in the marketing field. I'm still currently actively pursuing employment, and I'm excited for it. But at the same time, a long-term goal is, like, I'd like to be self-employed through my writing and my podcast, and, I'd like to create card games, because that's something I like to do too. And knowing that those are attainable goals through constant work is something that actually helps me get out of bed every morning. Because say I'm in a job that I don't like, or I'm in I want to have my work be pushed through farther or faster. Like, I want to make something and I want it published ASAP. That's only going to happen with that persistence and inspiration that comes from yourself or your support group or a support system like family or friends or whomever. I mean, it's important to understand what you want, and then from there you need to understand that you need to do what you need to do to get there, and inspiration from other sources might not always be the answer, because that's someone else doing something that they were inspired by. That's not you doing something that you were inspired by. Everything that I talk about on this podcast can be attributed to mental health in some way or another. And for the depression side of this, I know how hard it is to get committed to something and stick with it. If I were to have told 20-year-old Scott that in 2 years he'd be writing every day or almost every day, and he wouldn't be published and he wouldn't have gained anything like monetarily from it by this point, he would have spit in my face because he was an asshole. But he also would have laughed. He would not have believed it. I mean, it's hard for me to believe it now, because 2 years ago, I mean, I was in a really shitty spot mentally. I didn't think I would be able to do it. Now that I've done it, sticking with it and really pursuing it feels really cool. It feels great. And honestly, I'm really proud of myself for it. And I think I have a right to be, just like everybody that's ever done something. Just getting that energy and using it, getting that inspiration from yourself and understanding that there's something out there that you want to do. It's important. There is no shame in wanting to consume other people's stuff, like their work, and feeling it and being inspired by it in your own way. But if you want to make something, you also, that takes a lot of effort. So there's no shame in either route. The one that I can talk a bit more about is the trying to go out and do something route. because I'm definitely more the creator than I am the consumer, although I do a healthy amount of both. So I know that it can be hard, but no matter what's telling you that you can't do it, whether it's a person, whether it's yourself, or whether it's, I don't know, maybe someone wrote it on the bathroom stall. I don't fucking know. Just know that you just have to put in the time. And don't look at it as I'm going to put in a 2 to life amount of work in. Just think of it as I like to write. I'm going to do it today and see what happens. So I'll get off my soapbox in saying that everybody can do whatever they want and whatever they believe they can, as long as they put in the time and energy. But I really do believe that. But I also know that it's something that it's kind of impossible to understand and believe until you've done it yourself or experienced it. So just take that first step if that's something you want to do. And it'll pay off. If not monetarily, it will emotionally. I promise.